and we are going to be talking about the 10,000 Fearless Peacemakers. Is that what it's called, Minister?
Absolutely. Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
yes. You this past every Monday at 6 p.m. The Nation of Islam and community leaders and people in the community come out and they do a walk in our community, and it's to stop the violence. It's to be peacemakers in our community, and so I'm gonna let Minister Randy start off and tell us about that and how that all came about. The 10,000 Fearless.
Yes. Well, good morning to you and good morning to your listening audience. Um, 10,000 Fearless Peacemakers is an initiative that was born out of the Million Man March, which was a call by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to black men in 1994 for the Million Man March to come to Washington, D.C. for atonement, reconciliation, and to take responsibility for our communities. Now, in the 90s, we were at the height of gang warfare and violence. We're talking about the violence that is taking place in our city today. And one homicide is one too many. But when we look at it realistically in comparison to the numbers, which we were seeing in the 90s, it dwarfs in comparison. So at the height of the gang warfare, where we were seeing numbers over 100 up to 150 homicides a year, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan called for black men to come together for atonement, to atone for the sins that we were committing on ourselves and our community, to take responsibility and to reconcile our differences. And so we went back for the 20th anniversary of the Million Man March on 10/10/15.
I was there.
And the call was justice or else.
Yeah.
At that time, we were seeing that there was an increase, or there was more visibility of black men, women, and children and elderly being murdered by white vigilantes, by white police officers, and getting away with it with impunity. We've seen an increase in that. And so the minister calling us back to Washington, D.C., he let us know that we were fighting a war on two fronts. On the one front, we're dealing with racists, as we're still dealing with today, right? With the murder of our young brother who went on a boating trip with his white friends, and they all came back and he did not. We see that our people are still being murdered by racist white people. But we also have a big problem where we're being murdered at the hands of our own people. So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said we have to stop them from killing us, but we also got to stop us from killing us.
Right.
And it was at that time that he called for 10,000 fearless peacemakers that can go into the community to stand between the gangs and the guns, and to bring peace in our community, and to make our communities safe and decent places to live.
Right.
And so from that call, we heard and we obeyed, and we moved out to organize black men. I want to say that it's not just the Nation of Islam making the call. The Million Man March was the most inclusive of our mass movements. It included every segment of our community. Every civil rights icon was at the Million Man March. Black nationalists, right? Political figures, rappers, actors, gang members, Christians, Muslims, right? So the Million Man March was so vast and inclusive. It included all of our people. That wasn't just the Nation of Islam that did it, even though the call came through the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. The Million Man March would not have been as impactful
if all those folks hadn't showed up
without the collective.
Right.
And so any of the work coming thereafter, we have to keep the spirit of the Million Man March alive, and that is the spirit of unity, and that we need each other,
right,
and we're stronger together. And so the 10,000 Fearless is an initiative for all of our people. So we do come together. We have what is called the Hour of Power, where we're calling on Black men in particular, but people of our community to come and stand and to be present for peace as an example to our young people and to others that peace is possible.
Right.
That we can come together in unity across denominational lines, across geographical lines, across the political spectrum, but we can come together for the purpose of promoting peace because violence is something that affects all of us.
That's right. That's so true. And when the after the Million Man March was over, a lot of the brothers came back to their communities, and there was a change.
Absolutely.
And brothers started being more in tune with their family and their children. I know a lot of folks were registering to vote, so it was really about us doing for self, right?
Absolutely.
And trying to stop all this that's going on in our community that continues. The violence just continues to go on and on. I believe there was a shooting last night.
Absolutely.
The police, it's like you said, if the police aren't killing us, we're killing ourselves, and we have to do more to love ourselves and to love our brother and sister, because it's painful. It hurts. I'm part of the Nubian Square Task Force, which Brother Jeff leads this walk on Tuesday, and it's similar to the Peacemakers walk that you all do, but this walk is with different organizations like Bridge Over Troubled Water and Dimick Street and Torchlight Recovery. It's different agencies that can help our community, that can provide services for people who need different types of service. Like they may want to go to detox,
Right.
or they may want to go into recovery, or they're homeless, and so we have to make change because we know that time is running out. I know the last couple of days the sky was orange, and that was because of the fire in Canada. But when you looked at the moon, it was orange, just And so these are the signs of the times, and we have to. How much time do we have? We don't have a lot of time left,
Yeah.
And so I appreciate the work that the nation does, along with other community members, other clergy and just community-based organizations. We have a lot of different agencies that now they had the food banks, that because our people are starving. But the food we gotta learn how to grow our own food too, because half of that ain't no good either, And so tell us what as you all go out there and you're talking to people, what is their reaction to you guys? And Daniel, if you have a question, you can ask. But let him answer that one first.
So we have a overwhelmingly positive response when we go out into the community. I mean, there's just so much love and reception, right? People, we walking down the streets and we're chanting, right? We're chanting positive affirmations. We're letting the people know we're present for peace. We're letting them know that we love them, but we're chanting, Black man, we love you. Black woman, we love you. So we're chanting positive affirmations. We're present for peace because we want to announce ourselves. But when you have 20, 10, 20, 30, this past Monday, we had over 60, I think over 70 Black men that came out. Shout out to Stephen Wilson, who
I
joined
saw him, yeah.
the call and also was responding to some of the violence and called for 50 Black men to stand up. So he added strength to strength, and that's the spirit of collaboration and unity. So we had a great turnout on Monday, and we're looking to have a greater turnout. But when you walk in through the community and there's 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 Black men in uniform and ranks, marching, chanting positive affirmations, it catches people's attention because they hear us before they see us, and they're curious as to what's going on. And as they listening to the affirmations, we're getting people honking their horns, waving at us. People coming out their windows saying, "We love you, brothers. Thank you for what you're doing." And the children come up. They want to play. They want to, get to know us. And so it's a beautiful thing. I love being out there. It's rejuvenating. It's allowing us to do something. So, we know that it is not the end all be all. Right.
It's a start.
But it is something. Now, I do want to address, you talked about the violence and it's continuing. One of the things following the Million Man March, we did come back and we did change the culture. Right. And there has been improvements that we're still under. We're in a better place today than we were in 94. Right.
Yes.
But we have to remain vigilant. We can't stop, right? And so the truth is, a lot of the things that we see when there's a rash of violence, it's often a reactionary mood, right? We got to respond to the violence, but if we're responding, we're already late.
Right.
The violence is a byproduct of failed systems. Someone asked the question, well, what is the root of the violence? Why are people killing each other? And I would offer that at the root of why our people are killing each other is because of a lack of knowledge of self. We don't understand who we really are. So we don't perceive ourselves in the proper light. And if we don't perceive ourselves in the proper light, we don't perceive our brother, who is our other self, in the proper light. So when we don't know who we are and we accept the thug culture, which is a scam, the street culture, which is a scam. When we embrace being, the N-word, being, a gangster, being a thug, being a player, right? If we really see ourselves this way, then it's nothing to kill another N-word, another dog, right? And so when we truly get to know who we are and understand that we come from the originators of the heaven and the earth, that we come from the fathers of civilization, like when we really understand that Black people invented literature and invented mathematics and invented theology and invented philosophy, that we had kingdoms, ancient kingdoms that were far more advanced than this one. When we know that we come from kings and queens and rulers and inventors and people of high dignity, and we really get to learn about those people, right? Then we can associate ourselves with something great and positive, and we will try to live up to that. And so I had the benefit of working in the Mass Department of Corrections throughout the state of Massachusetts and all of the state prisons, working with the most violent people in our state. Some of those that were considered the most incorrigible, those that were beyond reform. But what I noticed is that with our brothers, even in those environments, when they are introduced to historical based knowledge of self, right, that it changes their perception of themselves and their value, right? And so a lot of these brothers have transformed their lives in prison and then come home and continue on a positive trajectory, which is a good thing. But the sad thing about it is, why do Black men have to go to jail to get knowledge of self? Right. So when we talk about systemic oppression and racism, institutional racism, we talk about the violence, it's a byproduct. Maybe if our young people were taught a proper knowledge of self in school, they would have a better perception of themselves. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Instead of, when we talk about the educational system, a lot of people just think about reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Yeah, there's a lot more.
But it's more, what are you reading?
Right.
If you having me write about the Great Gatsby, you know what I'm saying? Romeo and Juliet, like, what is that? Right? But we are not learning about who we are and our contributions. Then it devalues us. So we got to relook at these systems that are supposed to be serving us.
Mm-hmm.
But when we really look at it with a critical eye,
Mm-hmm.
we will see that most of the systems that have been put in place that are supposed to serve us have been actually weaponized against us
Mm-hmm.
to create the mentality that exists today. I talked about the street culture being a scam,
Mm-hmm.
right? They have our young people believing in this street culture. And I got to say, like, when we address the violence, guns in the Nation of Islam, we don't carry guns.
Right,
We're
right.
forbidden to carry guns,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And as we think about that, people are under the misnomer that guns are there to keep you safe.
Mm.
But a lot of times, if we look at the homicides, the people that got killed had guns,
Right, right.
right?
Yeah.
And guns are generally not used in a self-defense mode. Most of the times, when we look at the gun violence, oftentimes the guns are used not as a self-defense mechanism, but as a retaliatory mechanism.
Right.
And there's a
We
saying.
got a caller?
We got a caller.
Yeah.
Let me finish this
Okay.
one point. There's a saying: if the only tool in your tool belt is a hammer, then you're gonna look at every problem as a nail.
Mm.
And so when we heavily rely on weapons, then every problem, the solution is violence.
Mm-hmm.
But when you don't have that gun, now you can't use that. So now you're gonna have to learn
That's
how to
something else.
de-escalate,
Yeah.
how to communicate, right?
Mhm.
So we have a lot of work to do. But I could go on, but we'll take the caller.
Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Oh, well, peace. This is Brother Jamal. But first, I think, was the young man about to say something? Because before I go, the young man Daniel or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was you
Yeah.
going to say something, Daniel?
Oh, not at the moment.
Okay. Go ahead,
Okay.
Jamal.
Peace. So, Brother Randy, me and you known each other for a long time. I'm a little mad at you of recent because you dropped bars and didn't even let me know you was going to do that. So I saw that,
Yes,
and I like that. Anytime the nation deals with hip hop and whatnot, I'm loving that.
Thank you.
you know,
beloved.
Yes, sir. And you got it. So now, on a serious tip, when we talk about like squashing beef in the community and whatnot among the various, feuding factions and and all this, what I've been concerned about for years, and I've talked with you about this, and it's not really in the Nation of Islam because y'all are pretty much of one accord in terms of there's only one mosque number 11. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
But particularly in the Christian church, there's a lot of miscommunications and whatnot among church members, various community organizations and whatnot. So my thing is like, how can we mitigate the beef amongst those who are supposed to be the community organizers and leaders, while we're also trying to deal with the streets, and also too because, as you know, we've had some pretty egregious offenses out there. We're talking about people who were supposed to be leaders who were then shown to, be thieving or, messing with young people or, all manners of wildness.
Yes.
So how do we fix the thing in those who are supposed to be for the community, as we are also going out to the community?
Thank you, beloved. That's an excellent question, and it's a real challenge for us, right? And I think that we can't exclude, those who call themselves leaders or look to as leaders from the process, right? My reference point is always the Million Man March because that was the origin of it, and so at the Million Man March, we had groups that were, supposedly divergent, right? Who came together. We had the Civil Rights Movement. We had the Black Nationalists. We had Muslims. We had Christians of various denominations and schools of thought, and Muslims. And so there was a lot of work that had to be done prior to the march and a lot of meetings to diffuse what you're talking about, right? Because when the call went out, there was a lot of set tripping. There was a lot of hating. There was a lot of, people that was like, well, we don't want to go because Minister Farrakhan called it. That's a Muslim thing. Or, there was some that it was even trying to weaponize the male and female thing. Why it's got to be black men? Why not the women? And so there was a series of meetings that had to take place before that to bring us into one accord. And so I think that if we look at what came out of that, which was atonement, reconciliation, and responsibility, I would say the same is true. We need atonement because, as you said, there's some who are in leadership position that might have offended or violated individuals in different ways, right? So that's where the atonement comes in. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan described atonement as an 8-step process, atonement being the 5th step in that 8-step process, which begins with 1, someone got to point out the problem. 2, there's got to be an acknowledgement that the problem is there. If I say, Sister Priscilla or Brother Jamal, you wronged me, you did X, Y, and Z, I'm pointing out the problem. In order for us to move forward, there got to be acknowledgement that there was a problem, right? Yes, I did that. I acknowledge that happened. Then once we get to the acknowledgement, then you got to confess it, because sometimes we know that we're wrong, but we're not going to say we're wrong. You know what I'm saying? You did somebody wrong, but you ain't going to let them know that you did them wrong. Right. But no, let it confess. Yeah, you know what? I violated. That was wrong. I did that. Then once you confess it, then you got to repent, meaning you can't go back to the bad behavior, right? If I violated you, if I stole something and I'm atoning, then I can't keep stealing. Right. I got to stop doing it, right? If I've been abusive, I got to stop doing it. So that's the repentance part. Then the 5th step is the atonement, where this got to be something that you do beyond your words, right? In expiation of sin. You got to do something to prove that you've repented, to make the wrong right. And the way I describe that is, if I robbed you for $1,000, I go to jail. I find religion in jail. I come out of jail. I know that I was wrong. I come to you and I tell you, when I was in the streets, I was wrong and I robbed you. I'm sorry. Well, you may want to hear that, but at the end of the day, you still out that $1,000. But if I came back to you and I said, you know what? I was wrong. I went to jail. I found religion. I did you wrong. I robbed you for $1,000. Here, I'm going to give you your $1,000 back. And matter of fact, to show you how genuine I am and knowing that I'm wrong, I'm going to put a little bit extra on it for your pain and suffering. Now, with interest, right? Yeah. Now, when you atone, then you're setting up the stage for forgiveness, right? And then when we get to forgiveness, then there's reconciliation. Once we forgive, because sometimes you can forgive and some say, I forgive, but I don't forget, right? And that's okay, but can we reconcile our differences and come into perfect union? So the minister has given us and articulated, I think, perfectly the 8 steps of atonement. And so to your question, Brother Jamal, I think that the leaders in our community and all of our people should avail themselves of that process so that we can get beyond previous hurts. And I want us to think about it, because your question was about clergy and leaders, right? We're asking gang members and people that have murder drawn, right, to be able to squash their beef and come to peace. A lot of the drama that we have among so-called leaders and religious leaders and whatnot, it's not no murder drama. It ain't that serious. A lot of it is ego, right? But if we're asking street individuals to enter into a process to come into peace, but as leaders, we're unwilling to go through a process that would restore us so that we can do this work forward, then there's a problem there, and that's what we need to focus on.
Well, I tell you right now, brother, this has been in my mind forever. If we could ever formulate a closed door meeting, where we can get these individuals, because the problem is too, the worst offenders ain't gonna come. You know what I mean? Like, for somebody to go through that 8 steps of atonement, you got to be a willing participant, obviously. Absolutely. Right? But the other word you used before when you was talking, some of these people is incorrigible. You know what I mean? So it be difficult because we can't lasso them and drag them and make them show up, right? But it would be good if there was some sort of meeting facilitated, closed door meeting, no media, nothing like that, where, some of my situations and whatnot. And a lot has been said, and I've seen a lot of these people in the community. I've seen women threatened in this community. You know what I mean? And I've seen some of the stuff, which is not just ego-based. Well, actually, also, in there, probably, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But, where women have been assaulted or, sexually perpetrated or what have you. So it's a lot of stuff, and of course, money stolen and whatnot. So it would be great if we can get a behind-the-scenes room, at least with the first wave of the folks who are willing to have that conversation, and then maybe the next meeting is then we really do have to lasso people and drag them in.
I agree with you 100%, brother, and thank you for keeping that out there, right? And I want to say that, I'm open to it. We offer conflict mediation. So, you're right. The way a conflict mediation happens, both parties got to be willing, right? If someone wants to mediate a conflict, but the other person is just not even trying to hear it, then it's dead on arrival. But so what I'm saying is I'm offering myself, and we could bring others into that process. If there are some of these, not if there are these conflicts with leaders, let's sit down, let's talk. If someone is willing to try to resolve the conflict before it escalates, or again, on the leadership level is really not at the level where it escalates to violence, but we violent with each other on social media, we arguing, we dissing each other, sneak dissing each other, openly dissing each other, and it's verbal, but it's ugly, right? And it contributes to the culture of violence. So I'm open to that. And so what we do, Brother Jamal, when we get a call at the Stop the Beef hotline and someone has an issue, if they're in the beef and they calling us, they're looking forward to resolving it. I have to then know who the second party is. And then I got to reach out to that second party. And when I reach out to the second party, then I speak to them and see if they're receptive to the idea of atonement, of squashing the beef. And in that process, there's a little bit of ministry on my part, because I try to show the reason why we should come to peace. Someone may not be thinking about peace, may not want peace, but part of my job is to try to convince them that mediating the conflict is better than not, right? And I ask them to give me a chance to resolve it, because if we can resolve it peacefully, that's in the best interest of everyone. So I asked them, would you give me a chance to try to resolve this? And if they're receptive, then we bring the two parties to the table, and then we can talk in truth. And, we've been having a great success with all the mediations that we've had. We've been able to resolve pretty much all the ones that have come to our table thus far. Praise be to Allah. That may not always be the case, but it's not going to discourage us from attempting. We can't force nothing, but we're here to serve and to make ourselves available to try to resolve these conflicts.
Well, give thanks. I'm gonna jump off the line and keep listening, but I want to say this. Obviously, y'all are at Boston Praise Radio, and one of the reasons I mess with Pastor Wall is because he's one of the pastors who, all these years I've known him since the '80s, has remained scandal-free, as did, rest in peace, Minister Dawn as well. So these are the type of examples of men that I saw in the community who were able to they was in the they was in the mix for
That's
sure.
right.
The newspapers and all this type of thing. But
That's right.
I never heard nothing about either one of them stealing no money or no, side chick over here or whatever. You know what I mean? They were able to do what they were supposed to do and maintain that level of integrity that I think is critical to any type of leadership.
Absolutely. Salute to both of those brothers. Absolutely.
Yes.
Give thanks. All right, y'all. Well, be blessed. I'm gonna keep listening.
Thank you,
All
Brother
right, thank
Jamal.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace. Yeah. Yes. Huh? He's saying something now. You want it? I'm sorry. I gotta learn these sign languages with me and my technician. But yeah, it's true. A lot of it is ego. A lot, and it's sad because we do have great leaders have come from Boston, and one of the things is self love. We don't love ourselves,
Right.
self hate, so if because we have to learn how to forgive one another, we have another caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hello. My name is Edward.
Hi. Go
Can you hear
ahead.
me?
Yes, we can hear you, Edward.
No, I just wanted to make a comment about what Mr. Randy was talking about. He was speaking about the crucifixion of self that Minister Farrakhan teaches, and I wanted to know how I can be able to be of assistance. I make music myself, and I feel as if, regardless of me making positive music, people who only think negative tried to take my positive intentions as negativity towards their perspective of reality. How could I, as a person who does music and solely with the intent to glorify God, be able to present it appropriately to people who don't take it that way?
Yes. Thank you. First of all, thank you for what you do. I think that the artists play a very vital and critical role in shaping the culture. And I think that a lot of the violence that's taking place in our community stems from a culture that many of our people have accepted, that is a self-destructive, genocidal culture. And so, when I think about one of the so-called summer anthems, from our young sister, Young Miami, who is talking about scamming and boosting, is promoting and celebrating scamming and boosting. The artists have been manipulated through money and wealth to promote a degrading culture, right? And anything that promotes criminality is really enslaving us. We have to know and understand that it was the 13th Amendment that supposed to abolish slavery. But there was a clause in the 13th Amendment that said, except if you have been committed, if you have committed a crime, right? If you commit a crime, you can be reverted back to a slave status. And so when we study history, we'll see that post-Civil War, slavery was re-implemented through the black codes, through convict leasing, and it continues today through mass incarceration. So for any of us in our community to promote a culture of criminal behavior is guiding our young people into the clutches of our oppressor and into the modern day slave plantations. Unfortunately, the big conglomerate record companies and those that own the radio stations, they're promoting and they're celebrating and they're rewarding folks that are making criminal music or degrading music. So an artist such as yourself, who's trying to glorify God and promote righteousness, you have an uphill journey. But I say to you, stay the course, because that is the road and that is the path of the servants of God. When you think about you're promoting Christian music, right? And so when you think about Christ, he wasn't accepted by everybody, right? He wasn't loved by everybody. So if you're doing Christ's work, you're doing God's work in Satan's world, expect the opposition. But I would say to you to stay the course, because what you're doing is so important. And I think right now the pendulum is swinging. Jamal mentioned, a track that I did because I was a rapper back in the day, and I could still spit a few bars. And so some of the brothers and sisters of the mosque were putting out music because we're trying to change the culture. You know what I mean? And so when they were doing their thing, and they called me out of retirement, right? But I think that there's a need for that, and I think that the pendulum is swinging back from negative to positive. So we need brothers like you to just stay the course. Last thing I'll say on it is we do have to be careful. There's a thin line, when we're preaching the gospel and promoting God, that we don't come off condescending, right? And that we don't, and it's hard because we're at war with wickedness, but we gotta condemn the actions, the behavior, not necessarily the people. And so that's a fine line that you gotta walk. And there's gonna be some that's gonna be angry with you because they're gonna perceive you as being self-righteous and so forth and so on. But again, don't fret criticism. If you're standing on truth, then and you're operating out of love, then move in that direction. I see our brother D1 is a brother that's doing exactly what you're talking about, and I love the way he does it, and he pushes that line because he rubs people the wrong way, but he's standing on truth, and people got to respect his truth, and he's condemning the negative degrading culture. So brother, just keep going. You had a question.
I wanted to go back to the music and how it influenced like a lot of people talking about Young Miami and other things. Back in my middle school years when drill was, uprising, a lot of the youth was going into that route too, because how they were influenced from seeing music videos, quote unquote, seeing the money and seeing all of this. They were influenced, and now sadly 3 of my friends from middle school passed away from gang violence. And I just know it was the way they were influenced too, from music and from all that. It was music plays a big part in life too, because a lot of things that music could do in your life, like bring peace, bring happiness, bring a lot of things when things are not going right, because a lot of people go for that as a safe place,
Right.
And some people go there if they can like use it as an example in their own life or something. Like, for example, J. Cole, I listen to, he talks about a lot of struggles that the Black community go through, and other rappers too, but there's others bad influence that
influence. You got
it. Like the youth.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
now the youth thinks as an adult, I should be like this.
Right.
And that, like, the music, keep doing what you're doing. Don't let anybody bring you down. Just know that at the end of the day, that you're going to help somebody. Somebody's going to take your music as a piece, like a gateway of finding peace. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yes, and I just like to say that I found out listening to a video. I can't remember where it was, but there were some of these promoters, these people that produce music,
record execs.
Yes, they also are in the privatization of prison. Yeah,
private prison.
Yes,
it's the same record execs. The people that own the record companies, and you can look this up. It's not us, first of all. We could look at, the Jay-Z's, we could look at 50, we could look at, whoever we want to look at. But these folks are on labels, whether that's Def Jam, whether that's Sony, whether that's MGM, whatever it is. Look at who the owner of that is. And you're looking at rich white men that own all of these record companies, right, and they set the tone. And so these same people that own the record labels, right, have invested in private prisons.
Right.
So
And
it's in their best interest to promote a culture that would lead to filling the prisons.
That's right. And unfortunately, we've drunk the Kool-Aid. And we don't see it, and we don't realize it.
Right.
And that's the hurting part.
Yeah.
I remember, I think I mentioned this, and I think I was talking to Brother Childs about the brother in New Jersey, Brother Tyrone Muhammad, that has a funeral home, and his cars have caskets on it, and he does like a rap about how we need to stop killing each other. He says, because when you die, Little Bow Wow's not coming to your funeral, and he mentioned some other Little Wayne, or he said, ain't nobody sitting there but me and your mom, and so it's a way, our young minds, first of all, the public education is not teaching our youth what they need to be taught, and they're not treating them right as well, and so that's why I advocate for, we need a school. If we're gonna send our children to Boston Public Schools, then we need to elect a school committee, so that they can be taught some of the things that they're gonna need. Because right now, when you hear 1/3 of high school students aren't graduating, that's a shame. When you hear that youth jobs are being cut, that's a problem. Because if the jobs are cut, what are our young folks gonna do? And then the police budget gets raised, so that's more police out there harassing our young folks. And so the world is really like, it's upside down, for lack of a better word, and we as Black people, born in this America, we need to think about it. We every time you turn around, we're hearing, to be the safest city in the country. I don't see that. I don't even understand that, because it's like, since the 4th of July, we've had nothing but shootings and murders and things like that. And so our people, there's a scripture in the Bible that says, my people perish for lack of knowledge.
That's right.
And so we have to listen. We have to look in the mirror and decide, what are we going to do for ourselves, for our community, because we're just dying, and our parents and are crying, and so we need to create and be peacemakers and love one another. But we have to love ourselves too. Why? I don't understand why we have so much hate, self-hate for ourselves. But that's because we've been programmed and we've been taught, that we're nothing, that we're slaves. But we weren't always slaves. We were stolen. We were kidnapped from our own country. And to hear and see, and if you know your history, you know that you've been wrong. And and so,
yeah, well, that's the problem. We don't know, and so the question for us as a people is how far we want to go, right? And I think that the problem is we're not willing. We have not been willing to go far enough in doing for self, right? We talk about the bad schools, but how far are we willing to go to build our own schools or to change the curriculum? I mean, on some real, change it really fundamentally, right? How far are we willing to go to do for self, to build our own institutions? We know that the institutions that the oppressor set up were not for our liberation, for our freedom, for our equality, for justice, right? It was for maintaining the status quo. And so if we are okay with the status quo, and I think that for the most part, we're okay with the status quo until something happens, right? A violent situation or whatnot. But how far are we willing to go? The scripture that you quoted from Hosea, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. But the next verse says, because you rejected knowledge, I will reject your children, right? And so now our people who are destroyed because of lack of knowledge, it ain't because the knowledge is not there.
Right.
The Nation of Islam has been in America for 96 years now, teaching the knowledge of self, teaching to do for self, teaching us to love ourselves, to unite with ourselves. So this knowledge is present, but we have rejected that knowledge. And so now our children are paying the price of us rejecting the knowledge. See, when God intervened, and God has intervened, his cry is separation. When God raised up Moses among the children of Israel, he didn't tell Moses, go to Pharaoh and tell him to integrate. Pharaoh, let me run for Pharaoh, or if not Pharaoh, can I be vice Pharaoh? Can I sit on the city council of Pharaoh? And this is not to knock our elected officials and those that are doing that work, but I'm saying God's solution is not to integrate into the system.
You're right.
God's solution is to separate from the wicked and to do something for self. And that's what I feel like we have fell short of. We want to be happy in Pharaoh's house. You're never going to be happy in Pharaoh's house because he's never going to perceive you as nothing other than a slave.
That's right.
And so we have to come to that realization that we have to seek the knowledge that's present, unite among ourselves, and let's get busy doing for self.
That's right. That's right. That is so true, Minister Randy. Do you have something else you want to say, Daniel?
No, not right now. Not in the moment.
How much time we have?
7 minutes.
Oh, we got 7 minutes. Okay. So, with that being said, so Muhammad's Mosque number 11 is located at 10 Washington Street, and we're open on Sundays. You're welcome to come. Doors open at 10:30. Lecture starts at 11, and I'm telling you, you will learn things that you never knew, and you're welcome. Anybody's welcome to come there. And so also there's Torchlight Recovery. We can't leave out Torchlight Recovery.
Yeah, now I want to thank you for saying that. We have Torchlight Recovery, which is the first and only Black-owned and operated recovery support center in the state of Massachusetts. It is the second recovery cafe in the state of Massachusetts, the only recovery cafe in the Black community. And so this Saturday, we're going to be celebrating our 2nd year anniversary. We opened up 2 years ago on July 19th. And so we had our grand opening. So this will mark our 2nd year. And so we're going to be having a celebration. And we want to invite our community to come out. If you appreciate the work that Torchlight Recovery is doing in our community, we operate a recovery cafe where those of our people who are seeking recovery can come and find support in their journey to recovery. They could attend recovery circles, receive peer support, receive recovery coaching, participate in positive activities to build their recovery capital. We have a beautiful center. They can come and be a part of us and participate in all the different activities that we have there, just to create a positive culture. And this is what we've been doing, and this is what we are doing. We are open Monday through Friday from 11 to 7, on Saturdays from 11 to 4. And again, all are welcome, right? All are welcome to come. It is a membership-based model. You have to be a member, but if you're not a member, you come and visit, and you get a pass for a couple of days. But we really want folks to become members of the cafe, because to be a member is free. There's no money involved, but you have to commit to coming out and participating in your recovery circle at least once a week. And you have to be sober while you're in our space, and you have to volunteer to the community, right, that we are in, and be a part of the Torchlight community. So as long as you're in good standings by doing those 3 things, then the center is your space to be there. There's Wi-Fi, computers, and you can find community. So we want to encourage folks to come to Torchlight. If you haven't been there, come by, show us support. But definitely this Saturday, come by, as we will be having our 2nd year anniversary, and we want to show, and celebrate the great work that's going on.
Yes. So we only have 2 minutes left, and so this. Oh yeah, you want to talk about the Savior's Tour real quick, Minister?
Yeah, so in May we had the Saviors Tour in Boston, where brothers came from all over the Nation of Islam to make a demonstration in Boston, and we went through the community. We had what we call the Saviors Tour. We're following that up this weekend, with really it's just predominantly going to be brothers from Boston. We don't have brothers coming from all over, but we're calling on all the brothers from Boston, and we plan on going through the community to promote peace in the community, but also to be examples of the Savior. Also, this Sunday at Mosque number 11, we have a special guest, which is our regional student minister, Brother Arthur, who's coming from New York. So he's going to be delivering the lecture this Sunday. So again, we want to go out into the community. We want to meet and greet you in the community, and we want to invite you to come to Torch Light for our 2nd year anniversary, and we want to invite you to come out to the mosque on Sunday to see and hear Brother Student Minister Arthur.
All right, are we done? Oh, I still got time. Okay, so also, as you all know, I am the founder and executive director of the Marcus Anthony Hall Educational Institute. This is our 6th year we've been operating, and we are operating out of Torchlight Recovery at 2 Washington Street. And so I do this to train our young folks how to be leaders, how to advocate, how to organize, civic engagement, voter registration, education, and mobilization. And I have been blessed to be able to do this out of Torchlight. I love my young folks. I hope they love me. And we have a lot of, we do a lot of great things in the community. We attend walks. We attend community meetings. They're here on the radio helping me. And so there's a lot going on. But as you all know, my motto is, we are the people and we have the power.
That's right. That's right.
So next week, same time, same channel. We'll look for